Modern-day nightingales. Chris Sciserba started a factory in Minnesota. He manufactured urinals. There's something grandly American in the story. Chris Sciserba. Can I show you this name? It's the beauty of Polish names. There's like 4 consonants in it. What is it? Oh yeah. So yeah. Sczczerba. Sciserba. Came to America and earned a living by making things for guys to piss on. The urinals he made were big. They were shoulder height, spanning entire walls with thick porcelain backs and drainage gutters all along the floor where you would carefully distance the toes of your shoes. Americans like big things to piss on. In those days, guys didn't feel the need for seclusion or personal space when they pissed. American men and boys lined up shoulder to shoulder and unashamedly pissed like a choreographed army on everything in front of them. That was our day. Chris Sciserba's urinals were big enough so a dozen or more guys could all piss on the same wall together at the same time. We had a similarly designed group urinal at Curtis Crane Lutheran Academy. It was the one with images of disembodied praying hands hanging above it at eye level to remind us boys not to get any experimental ideas with our hands while we were holding our penises. But the urinal at Curtis Crane Lutheran Academy was stainless steel and shaped like a knee-high watering trough for livestock. The urinal chimed a musical song whenever boys would piss down onto its flat metal bottom, and only 4 boys at a time could use it. More than that, and there would be some uneasy trespassing into your neighbor's personal space. We kept our eyes on the praying hands. Besides freezing shit and making it food, pissing it on things was something American boys have always been real dynamos at. Chris Sciserba called his urinals nightingales after his wife, Eva Nightingale, who, like the urinals Chris made, was big, accommodating, and perfectly white. There were birds with ribbons streaming from their happy beaks etched along the top rail of Chris Sciserba's nightingale urinals. It was a good name for a urinal, I thought. Chris Sciserba's urinal factory went out of business during the Great Depression. During the Great Depression, I think American boys pretty much pissed wherever they wanted to. There was also a stainless steel trowel urinal at Satan's Pizza, but it was only wide enough for 2 guys to use at once. It was extremely awkward being paired up with a complete stranger like that at a pizza place. It was like being on a blind date. Worse yet would be if I was standing there peeing and then one other guy would come into the men's room and stand beside me on zip, and as I glanced over, it would be Lois, the cook from the Pancake House, or maybe Ollie Jungfrau or Pastor Roland Duff. I always tried to hold my pee whenever I ate at Satan's Pizza. Sometimes a guy just can't, though. There are old color photographs of Italy that hung behind glass-faced frames above the urinal at Satan's Pizza. One of them showed the Colosseum in Rome, and the other showed Michelangelo's statue of David. You know what I mean. What a guy doesn't like to think about Italy and civilization and shit like that when he's holding his penis. What guy doesn't like to think about Italy and civilization and shit like that when he's holding his penis and pissing into a steel trowel? I am the great-great-grandson of Chris Sciserba, a man who made things for other guys to piss on. My brother, Eric Christopher Zerba, got pissed on too. In a way, Chris Sciserba made me and my brother. When you think about it, Chris Sciserba's factory was still in full operation, and there were modern-day nightingales. and we were mountain nightingales. Everyone at Curtis Crane Lutheran Academy heard about what happened to Mr. Zerba's son, Eric Zerba, who was in Afghanistan. Robbie did not go to the school that day either. There was something wrong with both of us. But it was not something like what was happening to those Hoover boys. Although there was equally little Robbie Breeze, or I, could do about it. Shan, the horny Polish kid, and Satan. Johnny McKeon came over to my house that afternoon. He said he wanted to check on me and see if I needed anything. There were lots of things I needed, but Johnny couldn't give any of them to me. I certainly couldn't talk to Johnny McKeon about my confusion, or about what was happening between me and Robbie, and between me and Shan. I came to see if you needed anything, Johnny said, when I opened the front door. He added, if I could do anything for you, Austin. I was still in my boxers. I had not gotten out of bed all day. Ingrid squeezed between my legs and wriggled past Johnny out into the yard. The poor dog was about to explode. I called my fingers through my messed up hair. I said, "Thanks, Johnny. I think I'm okay. I could use a cigarette, I think." "I brought some for you," Johnny said. "They're in my car. Hang on." "Watch out for dog shit, Johnny," I said, "and thank you." "If your mom or dad says anything about this, I'm telling them you stole them." Johnny always said that. So Johnny McKeon stayed there with me on my front porch while I smoked a cigarette and talked to him. I'd forgotten all about my plan to look for the missing invisible McKeon silo with Shan. Everything had been such a nightmarish blur since Robbie Breeze and I had gotten beaten up for being queers by those 4 assholes in the alley at Grasshopper Jungle. It was like swimming through a big bowl of alphabet soup, where all the letters were alive and flash little dancing horror shows for you. Grimacing lemurs, 2-headed baby boys, accidental eruptions at the Waterloo, Sinizar, little blue kayaks, enormous green praying mantises, praying hands, the tally-ho, my pissed-on brother Eric Christopher Zerba, and my best friend Robert Breeze, Jr., whom I loved very much and felt terrible sadness for at the same time. "You're a good dog, Ingrid," I said. Ingrid lay beneath my bare feet, and I sat on a wicker chair in my boxers and smoked a cigarette with Johnny McKeon in front of my house. At that moment, my parents were on an airplane, flying over Scotland. "Why don't you put some clothes on, and I'll take you and Shan out to get you pizza or something," Johnny McKeon said. "You mean you don't want to just take me to dinner in my underwear, Johnny?" I said. Johnny shook his head gravely. For someone who was always in a good mood, Johnny McKeon never really knew when people were joking around with him. "Nah, kid. Put some trousers and a shirt on, or I ain't taking you anywhere." I waggled my St. Casimirs medal at Johnny and told him thanks, but I hoped he wasn't planning on sitting in the middle, considering he was going to be chauffeuring his stepdaughter and me out on another date. He didn't get that either. Johnny said, "I'll drop you 2 off and come pick you up, but in Ealing, not Waterloo. Now, go put some breeches on, Austin." I found some 501s that weren't too dirty. They were lying on my bedroom floor. I slipped into Robbie's Spam t-shirt. He'd left it there at my house the day we went up on the roof in Ealing Mall. It still had a few faded bloodstains and smelled like Robbie, which kind of made me a little sad. I didn't bother putting on any socks. I got the Adidas I'd loaned to Robbie a few days earlier and slipped them on. It made me feel lonely to wear Robbie's shirt. I went to pee in the men's room at Satan's Pizza before Satan Supreme arrived at the table. It was taking a chance because the pizza place was unusually busy for a Wednesday evening. Nobody came in to share the trowel with me, and the photos of the Rome and naked David. I sat beside Shannon. We looked out the window across Kibber Drive to Grasshopper Jungle, the Ealing Mall. We talked. At first, it was almost as uncomfortable as standing next to Ollie Jungfraut, the little chow urinal in the back of Satan's Pizza. I kept thinking about Robbie. I felt so guilty about the things we did. I do not lie, but I did not want to tell Shan about Robbie, and I did not want to tell Robbie about Shan either. So I sat there and thought about how I was ripping my own heart in half, ghettoizing it like Warsaw during the Second World War. This area for Shan, the other area for queer kids only, and wondering how it was possible to be sexually attracted and in love with my best friend, a boy, and my other best friend, a girl, two completely different people at the same time. I was so confused. There had to be something wrong with me. I envied Shan and Robbie both for being confident in who they were and what they felt, and for knowing what part of my ghettoized heart they lived in. Eventually, Shan worked up the courage to talk to me about Eric. We were eating our pizza by that time, and I had pushed all those thoughts about my brother into a dark place in my head, the pissed-on Polish boys' ghetto. Now a light shined on them, so I told her this. Eric Christopher Zerba and I got pissed on. I could not remember any image of my brother where we were not boys together. Eric Christopher Zerba was still a boy. Eric Christopher Zerba was my big brother. Now he was ruined, destroyed. He would be somebody else next time we talked. It would be awkward, like being next to a stranger. We got pissed on, Eric and me. Everyone did. Nobody was better off anywhere. Nobody learned a lesson. Nobody got saved. I could not eat any more pizza after that. I think I might have been crying. I have to be honest, this is history. I was crying while I sat there at Satan's Pizza looking out the window at Grasshopper Jungle. I was crying, and it wasn't only for Eric Zerba. It was for Robbie Breeze, my mother, my father, Robbie's mother, Chris Zerba, and for St. Casimir's too. Shan was crying. She put her face against my cheek. Shan said, "I've always been in love with you for how you say things, Austin. Ever since that day in 8th grade when we sat together and had Cokes and talked about the chocolate war. Do you remember that?" "Yeah," I said. "It's that book about the peacock who shits gumballs and sugar babies out of its ass, right?" Shan laughed a little and we kissed. And I told her, "Shan, sometimes I do really dumb things, and I don't think about the people I might be hurting. I want you to know that I love you no matter how dumb I am. No matter what I do." I was trying to tell her the truth, my abbreviated truth about me and Robbie. She had thought I was talking about the day before at school when I attempted to start a conversation involving the use of condoms. Shan said, "You're not dumb, Austin. I love you very much." I was thinking about what you said about, if you used a condom. I nearly fell off the bench at Satan's Pizza when she said that. I said, "You mean you would?" I tried to devise a means of getting Shan Collins over to my empty house that night. "Maybe we could try to do that sometime, when the time is right," Shan said. I thought the time was right. Hearing her say the words "do that" made me very horny. Shan tried changing the subject. She placed her purse on the table beside the remains of our Satan Supreme. When she opened the purse, I hoped she was going to show me she brought a long pack of condoms or shit like that. Not that I needed any. I had dozens of condoms for cleaning the furniture at Jenny McKeon's from attic to cellar consignment store. I fought with myself. There was rioting in the ghetto. This is the truth. I was being such an asshole to my two best friends. I decided to shut up. Like she had told me, she let me know when the time was right to try to do that. And that was much closer to a yes than a no. Eden 5 needed me. Maybe I could prove something to myself eventually and watch how everything might fall perfectly into place for me. Shan pulled a small black and white photograph out from her purse. It was a picture she'd gotten from Ealing Registry of the History of Homes. And yes, I was disappointed and very horny too. This book. I love you. Good night.